The fan in my small room squeaked like a dying bat, but I couldn't afford to fix it. I lay on my thin mattress, counting the cracks in the wall for the 100th time, while my stomach growled like thunder. Adana! My sister Chioma's voice cut through the morning air from the kitchen. Are you going to look for work today, or just lie there like a corpse? Easy for her to say. She had a job at the bank. I was the burden, a 25-year-old graduate with a degree in economics and no connections to get me anywhere. I'm coming! I mumbled, dragging myself up. We had learned to survive on our own from a young age. When I was 15 and Chioma was 12, we came home from school one afternoon to find the kitchen stocked with enough food to last weeks. And a pot of jollof rice sat on the stove, but Mama wasn't there. Not that evening, not the next day, not the day after that. We waited for a week, telling ourselves she had gone to visit relatives. But the weeks turned into months, and the truth settled over us like dust. Our mother had left us. She never told us about our father. Whenever we asked, she would change the subject or find something urgent that needed doing. The neighbors helped as much as they could. Mrs. Adebayo next door made sure we didn't starve after the provisions ran out. But we are essentially raising ourselves, 2 girls with no parents and too much pride to beg. After breakfast, I walked the dusty streets of Surulere, dropping off CVs at shops, banks and offices. By afternoon, my feet ached and my hope had shrunk to the size of a mustard seed. I was walking past the community center when a bright yellow flyer caught my eye. The bold letters read, "Professional mourners needed, earn 30,000 per event." I stopped and read it again. That was more than I made in 2 weeks of the part-time jobs I occasionally found. I copied the number into my phone and walked home. By evening, I had convinced myself it was foolish. How could I cry for strangers just for money? But when I woke up the next morning to an empty kitchen, I dialed the number. Ah, good. My name is Mrs. Okafor. There is a funeral tomorrow in VI. The family lost their grandfather, but most relatives are abroad, so they need 3 mourners. Make sure to dress in black, okay? Bring a handkerchief and be ready to wait from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You will get your pay after service. She gave me the address and hung up. The family seemed satisfied, and when Mr. Okafor handed me my 30,000 naira, I felt both relief and shame. I walked home with more money in my pockets than I've had in months. When Chioma asked where I'd been all day, I told her I found a job helping at events. She seemed satisfied with that answer, especially when I contributed to the groceries that week. 3 weeks later, Mrs. Okafor called again. This time, it was for a young mother who had died in a car accident. That's another 30,000 in less than a month. I was beginning to love the job. I told myself this was temporary, just until I found a real job. One evening, I met Blessing, an events planner at a small restaurant in Ikeja. I told her about my services. She smiled and said, "Alright, just give me your number. If something comes up, I'll call you." 4 months into my new career, I was sleeping deeply when my phone rang at 6 a.m. "Adonna, this is Blessing. I have an urgent job for you, please." I sat up instantly awake. What's the situation? Big family in Lekki. They need several mourners to make sure the service looks proper. I will take it. I will take it, I said without hesitation. The funeral starts at 11 a.m. at the Methodist Church in Lekki. Do you know that place? Then burial will take place at the cemetery nearby. Dressed very formally, this is a very high-profile family. By 10 a.m., I was standing outside the Methodist Church. Cars with tinted windows filled the parking lot, and people in expensive black clothing walked solemnly toward the entrance. I spotted the other mourners, 3 women and 2 men, all dressed appropriately and carrying the same slightly nervous energy I felt. I found my assigned seat in the middle section, close enough to be seen but not so close that I'll be obvious. The pastor spoke about Mrs. Patience Oku's life, her marriage to a successful businessman, her role as a stepmother to his children, her quiet dignity and grace. I began my performance, dabbing my eyes with my handkerchief, while letting out quiet sobs at appropriate moments. The other mourners did the same, creating a chorus of grief that filled the spaces between the family's real sorrow. One of the stepchildren, a well-dressed man in his 30s, stood to speak. "Patience came into our lives when I was 20, he said. She never tried to replace our mother, but she loved us like her own. She told us she had lost children of her own long ago, and that we helped heal that wound in our hearts. Immediately he said that, my blood ran cold. Children of our own? Then I stared at the photograph again, seeing past the expensive clothes and styled hair. Then it dawned on me. The woman in the coffin was my mother. Not someone who looked like her, but the woman who had raised me for 15 years. She had been living in Lekki all this time, married to a wealthy man, playing stepmother to his children, while her own daughter struggled to survive. At the cemetery, the final prayers were said, and the coffin was slowly lowered into the ground. I stood with the other mourners, but the tears streaming down my face were no longer part of my performance. I was watching my mother being buried, the mother who had abandoned me. The wealthy husband threw dirt onto the coffin. The stepchildren followed, each of them crying for the woman who had been a mother to them, while her real daughters went hungry. I wanted to scream, to tell them all the truth, that her lost children were alive, that one of them was standing right there being paid to cry at her funeral, but the words stuck in my throat. As the ceremony ended and people began to leave, I remained frozen by the graveside. I had come to the funeral expecting to earn 30,000 naira for a few hours of fake tears. Instead, I was living with the knowledge that the woman who gave birth to me had lived and died without ever trying to find the daughter she left behind. I lay there crying and screaming, not knowing I was attracting the attention of the deceased family. I felt a hand on my shoulder, asking if I knew the woman personally. Without looking back, I replied, I did not just know her. She's my mother. I've waited for her for years, only for her to be buried today. Wow, what coincidence, the man said. That was when I wiped my tears and turned to see the wealthy husband of my mother. I almost fell back in shock. I'm so sorry, sir. I did not mean to create a scene. I'm leaving now, I said as I stood up to leave. That was when I heard another shocking news. My mother's wealthy husband broke news to me that my mother regretted her actions and made a wish before she died that he should look for us and help us in whatever way we needed. I couldn't believe my ears. While I was still trying to make sense of everything, he gave me his card. Call me this weekend, let's see and talk. And also come with your sister. He smiled, tapped me on the shoulder and walked away. When I finally made it home that evening, my wrapper was dusty, my feet sore, and my eyes red from crying. Chioma was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, with a bowl of chips balanced on her lap. You went for another funeral? She asked. I didn't answer immediately. I dropped my bag and sat slowly on the floor, like my bones couldn't carry me anymore. What happened? I nodded slowly. I saw Mama. Her face froze, with her mouth slightly open. I went to cry at the funeral today and it was Mama's funeral. What did you just say? Then I told her everything. She couldn't say much afterwards. She just sat there stunned. The next 3 days were a blur. Chioma didn't speak much. She went to work and came back silent. By Saturday morning, I couldn't wait. I took a deep breath and dialed the number. It rang once, then twice. Then his voice came on. Is that Adana? Yes, sir. Oh, I've been expecting your call. So are you free today? Yes, sir, I said nervously. Good. I'll send my driver to pick you girls. What's your address? Chief Obi now welcomed us at his mansion in Lekki with a warmth that felt unreal. He entered a few minutes later in a simple kaftan. His eyes, kind but tired, rested on us for a long moment. I can't say much. All I can say is your mother loved you and regretted her actions every day. Well, I can't change the past, but I can help your future, if you let me, he said softly. He pulled out 2 large envelopes from a drawer and handed them to us. I opened mine, and inside was a check of 2 million naira. I almost dropped it when he said, well, there's more. That's just for current maintenance. I want to sponsor anything you need. Business, education, apartments. And look here, I don't want to buy forgiveness, okay? I just want to honor your mother's wish. He couldn't hold back the tears. The following weeks moved like a dream. With part of the money, Chioma enrolled in a master's program online, while I started a small business. We moved into a beautiful but modest apartment in Yaba that was paid for by Chief Obi now. Days later, we decided to visit our mother's grave. You messed up, Mama, Chioma said quietly. but we are okay. Somehow, we placed the flowers and walked away. Our lives only got better afterwards. Down in my